Hey everyone, this is Joseph Anderson, CEO and founder of Connex. Years ago, I watched my mother lose her job after developing carpal tunnel from repetitive data entry work. She later had surgery and was let go from her job after serving for almost 15 years. And that moment really stuck with me. I remember thinking there has to be a better way. That's what inspired me to create Connex, a tool that automates e-commerce operations and helps businesses eliminate the kind of tedious manual work that burns people out. Today, I'm joined by Craig Barnell, the Director of Customer Behavior and Insight at Inventory Optimizer, a leading forecasting and restocking platform that empowers e-commerce brands to anticipate demand and stock the right products at the right time. Craig is also the co-founder and COO of Fisher's Finery, an award-winning lifestyle brand that scaled from $300,000 in its first year to an eight-figure Amazon seller in less than a decade. As Fisher's Finery grew, managing inventory across a rapidly expanding SKU catalog became a critical challenge. That pain point sparked the creation of Inventory Optimizer, a forward-looking solution designed to factor in seasonality, order intervals, and lead times to help brands eliminate stockouts, reduce excess inventory, and scale with confidence. Craig, let's start with the big picture. When it comes to inventory management, what's the most common pain point you see e-commerce sellers running into, especially on Amazon?
That's a great question. And Joe, thanks for giving me the opportunity to discuss Inventory Optimizer. So, over the years, as you mentioned, the pain point that we experienced that led to the origin of Inventory Optimizer has been relatively consistent as we've talked to various sellers that use Inventory Optimizer or we've met over the years at the different opportunities where sellers gather. So it really boils down to what amount of product do I need to order? When do I need to order it? And at what time are we going to get it here in time for when it needs to get to Amazon for fulfillment? And it sounds relatively simple until you pull back each layer of the onion and you look at the individual idiosyncratic flow of who am I ordering from? What are the lead times? What are the MOQs? So understanding what product needs to be ordered in what window of time and in what quantity, you really need to have an AI-driven tool that lays over the top of Amazon that takes into account seasonality, trends, positive, negative, or neutral. The reason trends are as important as seasonality is if a product's growing, we want to identify that as quickly as possible to increase our orders to maintain stock levels. But if a product's decreasing in sales velocity, we want to identify that as quickly as possible so that we don't order too much. And managing that flow is by far the most important thing that we hear sellers having difficulty with.
So at Fisher's Finery, you sell like sheets, looks like bedding accessories, and some towels. Is it a seasonal business?
You know, in some of the components of our catalog, there's less seasonality. We do about 40% of our year's business in the 40 days at the end of the year, just based on the increased demand around the holiday selling season. But we do have a component of our catalog that are cashmere, hat gloves, and scarf accessories that are highly seasonal. The product that we've developed not only takes a look at the continual flow of products like our pillowcases. Again, they sell well all year round, but huge spikes around Christmas. But when we look at a seasonal product, we have a calendar company, that's highly seasonal. But even our cashmere, nothing sells during the summer. When it's warm out, the sales drop to near zero. And one of the things we experienced over the years was that Amazon's forecasting tools for restocking FBA heavily weighted previous 90-day sales. Well, it really doesn't matter what sold in the previous 90 days on September 15th. What sold in mid-August, July, and June for cashmere hats is unimportant of what's going to happen as the weather gets colder.
Yeah,
So
you
our
need to be comparing that time last year. So if you want to compare the 40 days of 2024 to look at 2025, I see your point, especially if you have seasonality.
Absolutely. And so if you look at products like calendars or even our cashmere, we have to place the order for cashmere in March. We need to get it here, before autumn, but we don't have the luxury of waiting to get, tons of data and spend tons of time. So a product like Inventory Optimizer using AI-driven technology downloads sales, in real time, and we reforecast every ASIN daily and allowing the flexibility of lead time, the amount of time it takes from issuing a PO to when the product's going to be available for sale on Amazon. We developed that demand forecasting model uh, to allow the confidence to know what to order and when. And I can tell you that managing 4,000 SKUs for more than a decade, we've maintained a 93% in stock performance level. And we have less dollars committed as a percentage of revenue today than we've ever had in the history of our company. And the reason for that is specifically that with the benefits of the AI generative models and the ability to use those models for forecasting, we've just gotten better and better and more accurate.
Yeah, we had a conversation earlier. You mentioned that it takes about 60 days for you to get one of the pillowcases in stock into Amazon. So it's important that you have adequate stock. You need to be concerned about Amazon storage fees. I believe is it over 90 days that they
Yes.
start charging you more money?
100%. And not only is it over 90 days at FBA, there was even talk earlier this year about charging a fee if you didn't have enough inventory. Amazon's model is heavily dependent on dispersing inventory closest to final mile delivery. So for high volume products, of which we have a bunch, they want sufficient order quantity so that they can disperse the products and offer 1 day delivery, or in some cases, my oldest son lives in the LA market. He can order products and literally get it in a couple hours. And the only way that Amazon can do that effectively is to have high enough volumes to disperse it around the country. So when things like that are happening and there's going to be additional fees for having too much or for not having enough, it's nearly impossible to do manually. And using a tool like Inventory Optimizer allows us to focus and know what to do.
So you mentioned something really important in our last conversation. You said that when sellers stock out on Amazon, it just doesn't mean lost sales. You can actually tank their product placement. You mentioned you had the 93% in stock. Can you walk us through what it looks like when you have a drop, and how long does it take your business to recover?
That's a great question. So if you have a single product, it's light on, light off. It's a light switch. If you have it in stock, you can sell it. If you don't, the listing stops selling. But when you have parent-child relationships, it's a different paradigm. So if you take sheets or pillowcases or towels, in pillowcases, we have standard queen and king, and we have various colors. If one of the top 4 or 5 children of the parent go out of stock after 8 days, the attribution, the sales contribution to the parent listing deprecates. If one of our top 3 pillowcases goes out of stock for more than 8 days, we've seen the listing go from the 5th place organic listing in silk pillowcases to 5th page. You can imagine the catastrophic drop in sales revenue.
So really, if you're failing to keep items in stock, Amazon will list them higher up on the rankings. So the people on the first page are the ones with the best reviews, with the product. The people with the best reviews and the likelihood of being in stock are the ones on the top, and the ones on the bottom are the lower reviews, people out of stock. So pretty much, if you can't keep it in stock, you're not getting listed on Amazon.
Right. Amazon's algorithm is sensitive to the fact that they want to have the Amazon customer enjoy the best experience. And so if you're bouncing in and out of stock, that is not a great experience for the Amazon customer. And so, they reward you for having the appropriate levels of stock. By the same token, when you look at parent-child relationships, if you go out of stock for more than 30 days, it can be almost impossible to recover. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, we had a silk eye mask that sold in pretty substantial volume, and we're talking more than 5,000 units a month. And we ran into some supply chain issues where we were out of stock for a little more than 60 days, and the product never recovered. After 30 days, you lose all of the meta content, all of the data. And so when you bring the product back in stock, you're starting from ground zero. Even your advertising campaigns don't retain the historical data that they had. So you have to put everything back into learning.
So if you run out of stock for a while, you're done, it sounds like.
Yeah, you just have to be fortunate and hope no one else took your place and that you can get back quickly. We're a branded seller, so we do have a decent amount of brand loyalty, but as you know, in a marketplace, it's highly competitive. So making sure that you have a product that focuses on your demand forecast and your restocking and replenishment needs is critical to maintaining profitability and cash flow.
And it sounds like a huge part of what you offer these is helping Amazon sellers or agencies manage their accounts to avoid these kinds of situations before they can even happen. Can you share how your forecasting tool helps protect not only the stock levels, but also the margins?
Sure. Before we get to that, you mentioned agencies. We have a component to our product that allows agencies that manage multiple accounts to use a hierarchical structure where representatives can only see the clients that they're working with and that type of thing. So we have the individual user side and then we have the enterprise level side. Both function the same way, but have different operational capacities depending on your business model. But to your point, when we look at stock levels, it's not just as easy as let's order a lot of everything and that way we'll always have enough. Frozen capital comes into play. I know you're heavily involved in the accounting side of the e-commerce play. The last thing we want to do is have too much capital committed to product that's not going to turn and not enough capital committed to the product that is going to turn, or the most profitable product. And so using Inventory Optimizer, having the data at your disposal and being able to set KPI based on your individual business needs. For instance, we use service level. The higher you push up the service level, the higher confidence level is established, and the algorithms and machine learning will order the maximum amount of product to decrease the likelihood of out of stock. For lower selling product or less profitable product, you can drop that service level and thereby not put as much focus from a cash component or an investment component. The combination of those two factors allows us to invest our money in the most important product based on volume and or profitability and is customizable for each user.
And the forecasting that you mentioned with AI, it's not just about avoiding lost sales. It also seems like it plays a big role in helping brands manage their cash flow. How does the inventory optimizer help balance inventory adjustments with other priorities like marketing operations or seasonal ad campaigns?
Yeah, great question. So if we look at going in inverse, if we look at seasonal ad campaigns, oftentimes we have to commit to buys in marketing and advertising well in advance. And making sure that your product's going to be here at the right time is a critical component to not wasting the spend. So from that standpoint, having the accurate forecast for the window that you're going to be advertising in the future, whether it be seasonal or holiday driven, having the flexibility to know when to order that product and in what quantity is critical to not waste marketing dollars. Nothing's worse than you run an ad campaign or a marketing investment and then you run out of product or your product gets there too late.
Another challenge I find businesses have, if you have, let's say you overorder towels by $10,000, you can't write off that $10,000 as an expense because you still have the product. You have to actually sell the product and then write off the cost of goods sold. If you end up overordering, you run the risk of storage fees, which eat away at your profits, and you run the risk of having a cash flow problems because you've tied up all your dollars on inventory that fails to sell. And with the help of your optimizer, you can ensure a business does not get those storage fees either at Amazon FBA or their own warehouse and ensure that they have a positive cash flow to buy products that do sell.
You're right. So when we look at it from a COGS perspective, right, cost of goods sold, we look at landed cost. There's a whole bunch of costs that are associated with selling on Amazon. There's the commission fees to Amazon, there's marketing costs, fulfillment expense. But in between there, right, we've got the operational issue of storing the product and making sure that it's in movement to go into Amazon. Having a product like Inventory Optimizer allows us to store the product. We use Amazon Warehouse and Distribution. We're fully integrated from Amazon Warehouse and Distribution through Amazon FBA and multi-channel fulfillment. So our product allows you to keep the grounded inventory in the lowest cost segment of your supply chain, as opposed to sending everything into FBA, which, as you mentioned previously, gets exceptionally expensive after 90 days, then 180, and then 365. And so I can tell you in Fisher's Finery, coming into this year, our operational expense related to inventory storage is down 30%. And we've been around for a long time. So to have those types of gains are critical to maintaining profitability in an unstable environment when it comes to tariffs and things like that. So spot on with your question about knowing where to keep your product and when to move it into FBA. That's as important as having it here, because getting too much in FBA crushes cash flow and not having enough eliminates top-end revenue because you don't have it to sell.
Yeah, I once had a customer and we ran a report and she had 350 products and we ran the report and I said, only 4 of your products represent 95% of your income. You're holding on to, looks like over $100,000 of inventory that's not selling. Has your business considered like discounting? With the optimizer, do you have a feature where you can say, listen, this stock is more than 6 months old? Can you discount it on Amazon or Shopify, or just say, hey, this is a list of products that you should try to do a quick sale?
So we address that specific issue in multiple ways. The first thing that we pay attention to at the most critical level is, what is your potential out of stock date? We're never going to suggest, if you, let's say, have a 90-day order cycle, we're never going to suggest that you order product that isn't going to sell in the time it takes for you to replenish the inventory. So if you can get product every 90 days, we're going to have you order product in that 90-day window. When you're launching a product, you take your best guess, you order what you're going to order. And let's say you have that customer like yours that's long. We're going to show that customer with a calendar date. Based on your current sales velocity and your demand forecast, you have 260 days worth of inventory. Now, they can choose to do a whole bunch of things. They can lower the price. The challenge with just lowering the price in a marketplace is if you don't put eyeballs on it, the conversions just don't happen. So oftentimes when we consult for customers, we do have a consulting arm of Inventory Optimizer where we help with these types of issues. But a combination of lowering the price and putting marketing campaigns on products can help drive sales, which then increases the organic placement of the listing and then further helps expand volume. So we do identify those exact KPI to allow you the flexibility as a seller to take action.
Exactly. So you can identify products that are 200 days of stock or more. If there's a 2 week lead, I only need a 2 week lead time. So let's say if it takes 14 days to get in the mail, I don't need 260 days worth of inventory. That doesn't make any sense. So what you could do is say, all right, these products, like when you go to a grocery store, they have I was actually at my local grocery store and they had turkey gravy and they said it's $1, like a quick sale, and they marked it down from whatever it was just to get it to get something for it. And then you can take that money and buy something that sells really well at this time of the year and get it off the books.
It's shocking when, like you mentioned, that customer you worked with, that client, that you looked in their inventory and you said, my goodness, 90+% of your SKUs do not turn at a volume to be meaningful to your business. We've ingested listings from sellers that have thousands of items, and you see the same thing, right? It's the 80/20 rule. A relatively small percentage of products do most of the heavy lifting, and having an adaptive AI-driven demand forecasting model that overlays POs in transit and the timing of those POs. When are they going to be here? So that we actually take a look at the time it's left before it arrives, ground inventory available for fulfillment at Amazon and in your warehouse, and give that timeline or that ordering window of when you need to order and what not to order. There are individual use cases, Joe, where someone will say there's an opportunity to buy more because there's a discount. And in that case, that's fine. Place the order, and then the system will automatically be changed by the amount of stock you have coming, and it will cause you not to order for the next period, as you had mentioned, getting it here in that window that you have availability to from supply chain side, and it smooths out. So you can take advantage and you can be nimble to react to changes in demand from a sales perspective or on the supply side based on your vendors.
And speaking of Amazon, I know you're coming out with more integration soon, like ShipStation, and that's very exciting because we've been integrated with ShipStation since 2013. When can your customers expect you to roll out this ShipStation integration?
It's coming, and thank you for pushing us a little bit faster in that regard. I am tremendously excited to announce today that our integration into Shopify went live. Shopify is Amazon's #1 in the world when it comes to e-commerce marketplaces, and Shopify is #1 as a powering website. So we're tremendously excited about that. But ShipStation is coming fast and furious. It's in the beta test environment right now. We'll keep you updated and potential users. The more opportunity we give sellers to get data into Inventory Optimizer, the better job we can do in helping people order. In regards to additional functionality, not only are we working on our ability to ingest data from different sources like ShipStation, Shopify, Amazon, and other marketplaces, we also are working on functionality that is going to enhance something you touched on earlier. If you're long in a product, what can I do to drive demand? But on the other side of that is I've got a high volume product. Our system's going to tell you the anticipated out of stock date based on your current stock levels, what's on PO and in transit, and your orders. Well, what if my projected out of stock date is September 15th and my next PO is not due until September 30th? We're developing and are pretty far along with allowing adjustments in marketing campaigns so that we decrease the spend in Amazon advertising, decreasing the number of eyes and driving, slowing demand, and also allowing a pricing adjustment tool that would allow you to increase pricing to slow demand. Because again, we want to protect that 8-day issue. If we can avoid the issue of being out of stock, we don't damage our listing. If we go out of stock for more than 8 days, catastrophic drop in listing placement. At more than 30 days, you might never recover. I was at a meeting a couple months ago out in LA with Amazon Advertising and Quartile, and that topic came up from the head people at Amazon Advertising, that why would we spend more money to run out of stock faster? Slow your advertising down. If you have to increase prices to slow demand, but protect your in-stock level at all costs.
Exactly. You want to make sure that your product is in stock. And if you have to increase the price, so be it, or reduce the ad spend. And it sounds like you have a really, great tool. So that'll be a wrap for today on the episode of the Connex podcast. I want to give a huge thanks to Craig for joining us and breaking down how smarter inventory forecasting can help e-commerce businesses stay profitable and in control. I found it really interesting when we discuss accounting, cost of goods sold, as well as discussing keeping the stock levels at 99 or even 100% by raising prices or dropping the ad spend, because if your products are out of stock, someone can overtake you. I'd rather keep my listing high, and even if I have to lower my sales, but keep my reviews high and my stock level high, than drop the price, than having be a bidding war where I have a half price. So I thought that was really interesting. So I don't want anyone to forget to subscribe, leave us a review, or share this episode with a founder, lead, or an e-commerce manager who's ready to stop guessing and start growing. Thanks, Craig.
Thanks, Joe.